There are singers whose voices are heard, and then there are those whose voices are felt. Patty Loveless belongs to the second kind. Her voice doesn't just travel through a microphone, it moves through the heart. It carries the raw wind of Kentucky's mountains, the ache of coal miners' lives, and the quiet dignity of a people who found beauty in hardship. Born Patricia Lee Ramey on January 4, 1957, in Pikeville, Kentucky, Patty came into a world defined by both struggle and song. Her father, John Ramey, was a coal miner, a man whose lungs bore the scars of black lung disease. Her mother, Naomi, was the gentle light in their small home, encouraging her children to sing when the nights got long and the air got heavy. In the tiny coal mining community of Elkhorn City, life was never easy. The roads were dusty, the winters were long, and the promise of escape seemed as far away as the Nashville skyline. But from those hills came a sound, bluegrass, gospel, and country melodies that echoed across porches and church halls. For young Patty, those sounds weren't just entertainment, they were oxygen. Her earliest memories weren't of toys or city streets, but of voices in harmony. Her mother, her sister Dottie, and herself blending notes as naturally as breathing. Her brother Roger played guitar, often coaxing Patty to sing at family gatherings. Those humble beginnings were the forge where her voice was shaped, strong, honest, and soaked in emotion. Even then, people around her could tell she had something rare. Her voice carried the truth of her surroundings, a blend of pain and hope that would one day make her one of the most authentic storytellers in country music. But before the world ever heard her name, life would test that spirit in ways that only the mountains could prepare her for. Patty grew up idolizing women who had carved their own paths out of small towns. Loretta Lynn from Butcher Hollow and Dolly Parton from Sevier County. Both had risen from humble Kentucky roots to stand beneath the bright lights of Nashville. And to a young girl singing in a mining town, that meant something profound. It meant it was possible. By her teenage years, Patty was determined to follow in their footsteps. Her brother Roger, who had begun working with the Wilburn brothers in Nashville, recognized his sister's talent and promised to help her chase her dream. In the early 1970s, Roger brought her to Nashville. She was barely out of high school, shy, wide-eyed, and nervous. But when she stepped backstage at the Grand Ole Opry, everything changed. Patty sang a song for Porter Wagoner and Dolly Parton, and the two stars instantly saw what others would soon learn, that this young girl had a voice with the soul of a lifetime behind it. That brief encounter lit a fire that would never go out. She returned to Kentucky, but Nashville had imprinted itself on her heart. She knew she belonged there. By her late teens, she began performing in small clubs with a local musician named Terry Loveless. They formed a duo that blended rock and country, two dreamers chasing recognition across smoky bars and roadside stages. They married in 1976, and it was from his surname that Patty adopted her now iconic stage name, Loveless. But the life of a musician on the road was grueling. The money was short, the gigs unpredictable, and the pressure relentless. By the early 1980s, the dream that once bound them began to crumble. Rejections piled up, exhaustion set in, and love gave way to frustration. Their marriage eventually ended, and Patty, heartbroken but unbroken, returned to Kentucky to regroup. She might have lost her husband, but she refused to lose her voice, and soon Roger would call again. "Nashville isn't done with you," he told her. "You just haven't shown them who you are yet." Those words would send her back to Music City, this time stronger, wiser, and ready to fight for her place among the stars. The road to Nashville's stardom is lined with broken hearts and empty promises. But Patty's story was different because she carried something money and marketing couldn't buy: authenticity. In 1985, MCA Records signed her. At last, after years of struggle, her voice had found a home. And when her album If My Heart Had Windows hit the airwaves in 1988, everything changed. The song If My Heart Had Windows, originally made famous by George Jones, became her declaration to the world. It wasn't just a cover, it was a revelation. Critics called her voice a hurricane wrapped in silk. Fans heard in her tone something they hadn't heard in years: sincerity. That same year, Her next record, Honky Tonk Angel, solidified her place in the neo-traditional country movement, a revival that pulled country back to its roots. Songs like Chains, Timber I'm Falling in Love, and Don't Toss Us Away climbed the charts, but it wasn't their commercial success that made them timeless. It was her delivery. Every lyric sounded lived in. Every heartbreak she sang about felt real. For fans who had grown weary of the polished pop sounds creeping into country radio, Patty Loveless was a breath of mountain air. By the end of the 1980s, she wasn't just another country singer. She was the embodiment of the genre's soul. The 1990s were Patty Loveless's golden era, a time when her voice ruled the airwaves and her authenticity ruled the hearts of fans. Her 1993 album, Only What I Feel, marked the start of a new creative chapter. Produced by her husband and musical partner Emory Gordy Jr. Together, they created a sound that was rich, warm, and deeply emotional, a blend of Nashville tradition and Appalachian honesty. Then came When Fallen Angels Fly in 1994, an album so powerful it earned the CMA Album of the Year. Songs like How Can I Help You Say Goodbye and Blame It on Your Heart weren't just hits, they became anthems of empathy. Listeners cried to them. They healed through them. Her 1996 release, The Trouble with the Truth, continued that streak, filled with songs that peeled back the layers of love, loss, and redemption. Critics hailed her as one of the purest vocalists in country history. Fans described her as a singer who makes you believe. And through it all, Patty never changed. She didn't chase pop trends or flashy fame. While others leaned toward crossover success, she leaned into her heritage, bluegrass, gospel, and roots that never left her. Her success wasn't just measured in awards or sales, though she earned plenty. It was measured in the countless people who said her songs made them feel seen, understood, and less alone. In an era of glitz and excess, Patty Loveless stood as proof that truth still sells if you sing it with enough heart. As the new millennium arrived, the world of country music began to shift once again. Pop influences flooded the airwaves, and traditionalists found themselves pushed to the margins. But Patty Loveless never chased trends, she chased meaning. In 2001, she released Mountain Soul, a project that brought her full circle to her Appalachian roots. It was unlike anything on the radio. Bluegrass instruments, ancient harmonies, songs about faith, family, and the beauty of rural life. Critics called it her masterpiece. With Mountain Soul, she didn't just make an album, she made a statement that the music of the mountains still mattered. That tradition wasn't something to escape, but to embrace. She followed it with Mountain Soul 2 in 2009, proving that authenticity never goes out of style. These records bridged the worlds of bluegrass and country, earning her respect from both audiences and fellow musicians. She once said, "I don't sing to impress, I sing to remember the people, the places, and the love that built me." That was the essence of Patty Loveless, a woman who never forgot where she came from, and whose art carried the weight and warmth of home. Behind the music, behind the stage lights, there was another story, one of love, faith, and endurance. After the collapse of her first marriage, Patty had sworn to focus on her career. But fate had other plans. In the late 1980s, while working in the studio, she met a man whose quiet strength matched her own. Emory Gordy Jr., a gifted musician and producer who had played with Elvis Presley and Emmylou Harris, Gordy saw something in Patty that went beyond talent. He saw truth. Their professional collaboration quickly grew into something deeper. He became her creative compass, the man who understood her voice better than anyone else. They married in 1989, and their bond would become one of the most stable and enduring partnerships in country music. Together, they weathered the highs of fame and the lows of personal challenges, including health battles that later slowed their pace. But through it all, they held on to each other and the music that united them. Emory once said, "Patty doesn't just sing songs, she lives them," and he made sure the world could hear every ounce of that honesty in her recordings. Their marriage wasn't built on the glitter of celebrity. It was built on shared purpose, respect, and an unspoken understanding that real love, like real music, only gets deeper with time. For years, fans speculated about the chemistry between Patty Loveless and Vince Gill. Their duets felt almost spiritual, two voices blending as if they had shared lifetimes. But behind that harmony was something far more beautiful: friendship. Patty and Vince first collaborated in the early 1990s, when both were at the height of their careers. Their duet, My Kind of Woman, My Kind of Man, became an instant classic, a performance so seamless it felt less like a recording and more like a conversation between souls. Years later, when asked about their connection, Patty finally opened up. "Vince has always been more than just a duet partner," she said softly. "He's been a friend who stood by me when the spotlight dimmed, when I doubted myself, and when I needed to remember why I fell in love with music in the first place." She described how, during recording sessions, Vince would stand silently in the booth, eyes closed, listening with his heart. When she overthought a song, he'd simply whisper, "Patty, don't think, just tell the story." That became her guiding mantra. Their friendship wasn't about fame or collaboration, it was about trust. Vince Gill became her anchor in an industry often driven by ego. When her husband Emery faced health challenges, Vince checked in regularly. When Patty stepped away from touring to find peace, Vince never stopped calling. "In this business," Patty said, "you meet a lot of people who smile for the cameras but disappear when things get hard. Vince was never that person. He's steady, grounded, and kind." The world saw the truth of that bond during one unforgettable moment: George Jones's funeral in 2013. Patty and Vince performed "Go Rest High on That Mountain." Midway through the song, Vince broke down in tears. Without hesitation, Patty's voice rose to meet his, soft, steady, and full of grace. It was one of the most emotional performances in country music history, two friends holding each other through song. That moment, Patty later said, reminded me of what music is supposed to do: heal us when words fail. For her, Vince Gill wasn't just a friend. He was family, not by blood, but by bond. Today, at 68, Patty Loveless has stepped back from the bright lights, but her voice still echoes wherever truth is sung. She may not chase awards or headlines, but her influence can be felt in every modern artist who values heart over hype, story over spectacle. When asked about her legacy, she smiles humbly. "I just hope people remember the songs, because that's where I left my heart." Her friendship with Vince Gill remains a testament to everything she stands for: loyalty, compassion, and love without conditions. She once said, "The world knows Vince as a great musician, and he is, but I know him as something greater. A man who never forgot where he came from, who lifts others up, and reminds us all what it means to care." Patty Loveless's story isn't just about fame, it's about faith, in music, in love, and in the power of kindness. From the coal towns of Kentucky to the grand stage of the CMA Awards, her journey has been one of quiet strength and unwavering grace. When she sang at the 2023 CMA Awards alongside Chris Stapleton and Dwight Yoakam, the audience rose to its feet, not because of nostalgia, but because of reverence. Her voice, still rich and commanding, filled the room like it always had, with truth. In that moment, the mountains sang again. And as the applause thundered, Patty Loveless smiled, a woman who had given her whole soul to her songs, who had loved deeply, and who had finally spoken her truth. Because at 68, when she finally spoke up about Vince Gill, she wasn't just talking about friendship, she was talking about what really keeps music alive: the simple, sacred bond between hearts that understand each other. And that, more than fame or fortune, is the song Patty Loveless will be remembered for.